the objective of the Islamist is to annihilate, to eradicate, to remove Jews, not just the state of Israel, all Jews from this world. And when I was in the bosom of the Islamists, that's what we used to pray for, without ever meeting any Jews at all. We never differentiated between liberal Jews, secular Jews, religious Jews, Jews in government, Jews not in government. It was just all Jews. Jews were likened to microbes, to germs, they were Satan. The way Bill Gates talks about his dedication to eradicate malaria, that is how Islamists talk about Jews. Political Islam, the word tells you, the qualifier political is the program is to resuscitate the caliphate. It's to bring back the Islamic empire from the ashes. And once an Islamic state is established, then the job of that Islamic state is to take Islam to all corners of the world. And in the process, of course, annihilate Israel, bring America down a notch or two, the great Satan and the little Satan. And if you read Islamist literature and you follow the discussions that they have amongst themselves, what you hear is we can do this through jihad, that is through violence, versus so bin Laden was on that line of thinking, Zawahiri, the founders of ISIS. It is the shock and awe, the use of violence by a dedicated minority, just like the Prophet Muhammad had done in Medina, versus a group of, realists, if you will, who say, well, hang on a minute. They think of us as evil forces, America, Europe, Israel. They have stronger militaries than we do. They have stronger economies. They have tools that will set us back decades, if not centuries. So the strategy should not be one of bringing the violence or the jihad part of the struggle in the front, but let's start with the dawah, the subversions, the infiltrations, a gradual movement, participate in democracies, demographic growth. They have a whole list of ways of doing it, having alliances, shaping alliances with the woke, the communists, the Marxists, the democratic socialists. What do our young people here in New York call themselves? Let us have these associations and make these alliances and have a long-term plan. And it seems to me as if they've been very effective in Europe for a number of reasons. There's the European elite that has been wittingly or unwittingly facilitating the demographic growth of Muslims in Europe, but also facilitating the establishment of an infrastructure that shapes hearts and minds, mosques, schools, Islamic centers, online and offline media associations. Number two, from after the Arab Spring, what was called the Arab Spring, some of these Arab countries that survived those revolutions understood that political Islam was coming for them. And in response to that, they clamped down on movements like the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamists. And those Islamists have shifted their headquarters from the Middle East to Europe and America. And that's a very important thing for you to see. And so that obviously is helping them. And then, of course, there's the birth rates. I cannot stop talking about the demographics. Where you have democracies, people vote. And all over Europe, you see these outcomes with the use of so-called the Islamic bloc or the Islamist bloc. You've seen it here in New York. You have a mayor, Mamdani, not because, I think, only because of the promises he made and how well the DSA is organized within the Democratic Party, but also because he was able to mobilize the ethnic vote and the Islamist vote. And he was helped by organizations like the Council of American Islamic Relations in organizing, but also financially. So all of this put together means that the Islamists who were saying, let's do this gradually, that they are winning the argument. They can show that the non-violent, meaning non-violent only until it's not swearing off of violence. It's just, let's not be violent now.
The deferral of violence.
Yeah, it's the deferral of violence for later. That they have been successful. The example I like to give of this Dawah-oriented gradual success is Erdogan, the president of Turkey. Before he was president of Turkey, he toyed with the expression of his radicalism, and he found himself in prison. And while in prison, he adjusted his strategy, came out of prison, and started taking part in elections. He is quoted as saying, well, democracy is like a tram or like a bus. You ride it until, and when you get off it, when you get to where you need to be. And he did that. And he was elected first mayor and then prime minister. And what did he do with that power? He got rid of the military, which was in Turkey the only thing between Islamization of society and for it to continue as a secular neutral democracy. And then the next thing he did was he got rid of the courts, subdued the opposition, declared himself president, and is now using the resources of his country not to lift up his own society, but to advance the agenda of reviving the caliphate.
Okay, and in surveying this civilizational scene, one of your own metrics is anti-Semitism.
Yes.
Anti-Semitism for you is an indicator of civilizational health. Explain how you came to that thought and where you see it operating, what it teaches you.
Well, anti-Semitism indeed is a symptom, and I didn't come up with it, but it was through the years trying to understand. I understand, I see it, that it is a specific kind of hatred. I'm very much against people who say, oh, it's just like all other hatreds. I've had fights with my Jewish friends who say, in fighting the Holocaust or in, the memorials, Holocaust museums and the like, that we should also talk about the genocide in Rwanda. We should talk about Islamophobia. We should talk, and I say, no, you should not. Anti-Semitism is a unique kind of hatred. And then the question, but then why is it there? And look at what we are going through. If you want to understand how deep the civilizational trouble of the West is today, the spiritual bankruptcy. If you look at young people not getting married, not having children, the number of drug overdoses, the desperation of the embracing of crazy ideas like abortion, euthanasia, all of these, instead of life celebrating these, ideas that snuff out life. And then you look at the general public on the right, on the left, in the center, entertaining these ideas that somehow it is Zionism or Israel or Jews, just the revival of these crazy ideas that we thought we had put behind us. I think it's important to answer the question, why do we have this proliferation of anti-Semitism? Number one, I can clearly see the Islamist-driven anti-Semitism. But why is it that the left is embracing that? That's because our civilization is in trouble. Why is it on the right that it is bad? Why is it that rational, intelligent people think that the prime minister of a tiny country that is our ally is manipulating the United States president, sitting administration, and intelligence, that people actually entertain these lunatic ideas? And so, yes, it is a symptom of that. The Islamist-driven anti-Semitism is not about discrimination. They want Jews discriminated against, but that's not the objective. They hate Jews, but that's not the objective. The objective of the Islamist is to annihilate, to eradicate, to remove Jews, not just the state of Israel, all Jews from this world. And when I was in the bosom of the Islamists, that's what we used to pray for, without ever meeting any Jews at all. We never differentiated between liberal Jews, secular Jews, religious Jews, Jews in government, Jews not in government. It was just all Jews. Jews were likened to microbes, to germs, they were Satan. They were accused of causing all the way Bill Gates talks about his dedication to eradicate malaria. That is how Islamists talk about Jews. So it's also very important that you don't confuse the different anti-Semitisms. It is not excluding you from a club. It is wanting your head on a plate. It's exactly what they did on the 7th of October, 2023.
Ayaan, what would you have the West, America, Europe, learn from Israel, learn from modern Israel, as we try to now gather our forces and confront all the things that we've been contending with in this discussion?
Restore the West's vital institutions that define the West and Western nations, so Western nation states founded on biblical notions, reproduce. Israelis have children. Israelis, unfortunately, do understand the difference between enemies and friends. At the moment, we are very confused about that. Israelis, you may have read Alana Newhouse's tablet piece, I think, was it in March, or where she has these points, and she says one of them is, Israel is happy. On either side of the Atlantic, Western societies have become very unhappy societies. Societies that don't want to reproduce, don't want to have children, are unhappy societies. There's so much to learn from Israel, but I would say the most important one is Israelis do not have an identity crisis, and we are mired in an identity crisis.
Okay, so that's what you would have us learn from Israel. Now, what would you ask of the Jews? Looking around you, thinking about all that we have to do together to restore, to revitalize, what do you think the Jews owe? What's our mission that you'd give us?
Don't lose hope, number one. Number two, lead. You know, all of these conspiracy theories about Jews having these magical powers. So if you have them, please use them. But jokes aside, I think that we have a shared destiny, Jews and Americans, but not just Westerners. And we fall into a tragedy when we lose that and turn on one another. And there's a lot of turning on one another that's going on, even within intra-Jewish communities. And Jews are too few in number to turn on one another. And I think if we want setting an example, and I don't mind disagreements. I actually enjoy disagreeing with people and having discussions. But the type of toxic polarization that we're seeing everywhere, where if you voted for Trump, you're not going to be my friend anymore, or I don't talk to my brother anymore ever since he made that political choice. I think that is the type of toxicity that we are facing now, and I think that Jews can show us that you can disagree, that you can build a state like Israel where internal disagreements are allowed, but there is that glue, that cohesive glue, and that it's rooted in history, it's biblical, and it is worth fighting for, and it's a better story and a better message than what the Islam has to offer, what the CCP has to offer.
If you have a 401k or an IRA, please listen. Gold is at record highs. What many people don't know is this: you can move part of your retirement money legally and without tax penalties into physical gold you actually own. Alpha Omega Gold helps you do this through a gold IRA. Your gold is real. It is stored safely. It is in your name. Learn more at ao.gold/stand. Alpha Omega Gold is our sponsor, and they proudly stand with Israel.